foundation coaches, and one day a foundation called Stiftung from Germany came to us with a very tricky challenge, and it was revive the butcher craftsmanship in Germany, because so many shops are closing down and the craftsmanship is just dying out. So presentation is called the worst case scenario. Do you know worst? German worst? Yeah. It's sausage. So just a quick, and the most important thing about design thinking, it's very much about the user. We try to learn everything from scratch about a topic. So you will see it when I talk about it. So we had this challenge. What we did was we went to all sorts of places where we could meet people who are related to the topic. So we went to the organic farmer and also butcher and slaughterer Bernd Schulz, like to the farm. We spoke with like the second generation of a butchery, like the daughter. We spoke with famous chefs like Zacher, is a famous TV chef from Germany. We spoke with a Wurster.
To the very famous Wurster.
Food activist. Henrik. Yeah, we went also with a salesman who visited the butcher shops. We went with him for one day. And we met Sotter. I don't know if you know this guy. He's from Austria, and he's famous for his chocolates, Sotter chocolates. And also he has an edible zoo. Like it's a garden where all sorts of animals are, like old breeds. And in the restaurant you can also eat these animals.
So you go in and choose your animal and say, that's what I want on my plate?
No, exactly, but the people pay entrance to get into the zoo, but the restaurant is right next to the pastures, so you can really eat there and look at the animals.
And it's only rare breeds, all kinds of rare old breeds.
Okay.
And yeah, we spoke to apprentices like him, and like to traditional butchers a lot, of course, like him. And we went to all these places. We went to fancy restaurants that play a little bit with the butcher image. We went, as I said, to the edible zoo. We went to street markets. I don't know if you can see that, but like to right here for the presentation actually. We went to schools, butchery schools in Bavaria and also in Austria. And yeah, butcheries, as I said. And also we had a look into different related businesses, like food-related businesses, startups. So this one is very interesting. It's based in Berlin, and it's called Meine kleine Farm, like my little farm. And on each product you can see the animal, like this is the animal that is inside the product. So they take care. So like they follow the whole chain, they follow these animal, and in the end they put exactly the photo on the product. So it's very successful. So some people think it's like very odd, but actually customers like it because they want to know where their meat comes from. So they appreciate this approach. And also we had a look at a very innovative fish shop in Portugal. They do a lot with social media, so they really communicate a lot with the people that live in the district, and yeah, so it's also a very cool approach. You see, they also have humor. We went, for example, to Blutwurst manufacture in Berlin. So it's a, do we call it blood sausage? Blood?
I don't know what they do, the French style blood sausage.
Yeah. And they're famous for it, so he won many prizes. So we went there, and also we went to see Sotter with this edible zoo and talk about it. It was very interesting. Yeah, and also like to understand the user, we try to walk in the shoes of our user. So we went to the butchery and I worked there for a day, made new friends. And what we also did to understand better, we asked several butcher shops from Berlin can you please pack us a lunch bag? We didn't say anything else. We just ordered several lunch bags in different butcheries, and what we got was this, like sausage, of course, like bread rolls with wurst.
Loads of nitrate, not organic.
Yeah, so
Fantastic food.
in a beautiful bag. So, like we got from all the butcheries, we got actually more or less the same thing, like ugly plastic wrapped stuff. So
Is this what they eat themselves, or what you buy there to eat yourself? Is it what the butchers eat or what they sell?
that's what they gave us when we asked for lunch bags. So we wanted, it was like
Like an order, like we
Yeah,
said,
it was a
it's lunch bag
research for us. It was a
that budget.
research. We wanted to see what we get when we just asked them pack us something to eat
Yeah.
for on our ways.
with the purpose to understand how creative are they about
So
that.
we were surprised
We were
what we
all-
got out of it, or not very surprised.
most of them were really the same. That was shocking too.
Yeah.
Why you don't use bag paper?
No, ils ont.
It's not us. It's them. It's them.
C'est les boucheries.
It was
C'est
them.
qu'ils ont demandé à la boucherie.
We
de
don't
faire
know the
quelque
people
chose.
personally. Okay, so
So what we learned from this research phase, which was very long, they really, like many butchers, really compete with the supermarkets and try to have really low prices and do everything cheap, which is very dangerous. Then, of course, many have the problem that there's no successors. Also, there's also still a bad image that butcheries have to face. They don't have a good network, so they are more or less, many of them are very focused on themselves, which is a problem, so there's no exchange. There's a lack of idols, so not many people know visionaries like Dario Cecchini, for example. And the culture is a little bit like keeping the ashes. And also when we had a look into education, it's very one-sided education, so it's not no holistic approach.
What do you mean by one-sided? What side?
Yeah, just the practical issues. Yeah,
How
just
you
the
cut.
how, not no more, like, and not the new approaches.
and very industry driven, not
Right,
very
yeah.
craftsmanship driven, but very
Speed and right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Go ahead. Next.
Learning,
Yeah,
education.
out of this research, we had first thoughts of how a solution could be. So this is just a sketch of the first thoughts that we had on the solution. So we wanted to have a butcher that can get in touch with marketing, with innovation, and sales approaches that customers nowadays like. So like information, all these topics, meeting people from all these fields to teach them, to inspire them. So this was one of the ideas we had. And we had the idea that these butchers should have workshops where they interact, where there's an expert or someone who lead them through a process where they have an understanding and an exchange, and like a little bit like we do today. And we ideally thought of a tour, so like they just hop on the bus and then we drive them to interesting places, like people, where they can learn about products, meet the people, see the places, experience it, like something like farms and production spaces, like really going on a tour, like going on a safari, we thought.
That was how we started off, and then we.
So, and then what we wanted is, like, in the end of this whole safari education workshop exchange, we wanted the butchers to go home with a toolkit, like all this knowledge, new ideas, new knowledge about the craftsmanship, new ideas on products or new products they learn about, and also about the farming and like what's behind it, new learnings. We wanted them to go home with all this and being able to revive their craftsmanship, their business themselves. So this was the rough idea after all the research we did. So Olga is going to present you the real solution.
Yeah. So then we talked to the association and we presented a range of ideas. So this was really just a little glimpse into what we developed. And we said, okay, do we have a budget? We had a bit of a budget. And we decided to actually run a pilot. And the pilot was the first Trüffeljagd, which happened this year in April. And it was all about only these three aspects that we decided to focus on at the beginning, which was about building a network like we're doing now, inspire people, and also understand the user, because they are changing. And like what we learned is that there are so many butchers somewhere outside in small villages that don't really get to understand why actually is he maybe the only butcher remaining in this village. So we actually we put that online and we ran it through several networks. We had 30 seats and we were booked out within 1 week. And we had a fee for people to pay to participate. So that was a 2.5 journey, we call it, where we invited people to come to Berlin to get to know each other, to exchange with each other. So the first evening happened in a very famous restaurant which is called Katz Orange, and they also follow the principle of nose to tail. They're also quite radical, considered with their concepts in Berlin. And we got the owner who told his story. Why does he run this restaurant? Why does he choose to actually make a difference? And he even told how he wants to become more radical in the future. And here you can see Anika and myself. We created a map of Germany, and then we had each participant saying where exactly they are from, so that they can see, okay, in my region there are that many other people who are here today that I can actually connect to. This is our workshop space. So on the first day we met, the day after we started in a space where we had inputs, but also workshop sessions, like we're doing it basically today. So we had small teams, and every time there was an input, and the inputs were by experts and startups, and particularly from people who are actually not butchers, but who had brave ideas and started to do something in the meat business. So for example, we had a vegetarian butcher who decided to translate a whole range of popular meat products into a vegetarian range. Then we had another person who is running a small business with paleo jerky, actually a really good quality of dry meat. So we wanted to create that exchange. So here you see one of the startups presenting. It was very short pitches, 3 minutes talk, 5 minutes talking, something like that. And then we had a tasting and a networking session. And then after everything they heard and learned and interacted with, we did an unpacking session. We really tried to understand what is behind it, what are the opportunity fields within those different topics, what can I potentially take home for my business, which doesn't mean that I have to take home everything, or I have to embrace every idea, or I have to run an online shop, but what are the opportunities behind it. So here you see how happy people were to actually get a stage to say what they think, to talk about their personal challenges. And yeah, so that was the principle, looking at it, listening, and then doing the workshop. But apart from that, we actually decided we would make a tour. So we went out to the farm, we spent an evening with the farmer, butcher and slaughterer. We visited his 250 pigs. We watched him preparing his baked pig, the Backschwein, which is baking for 7 hours in a stone oven. And we had dinner all together. And the day after, the last day actually happened in our Markthalle 9, which is a market hall that has a normal market, a weekly market every day, but also like a lot of festivals. This is where actually the glass butchery from Jörg is located, and there you can see we had Hendrik talking, and also we visited their shop, and we had the opportunity to taste different kinds of cuts that got forgotten. Here you see we were even doing a little game on trying to figure out what cut it is without telling it in advance. And this is still a German, I'll translate it just now. And at the end, what we got is people were so grateful for the fact that we brought them together, and that we introduced them to people like Hendrik and to other people who were talking about digitalization, how it's going to influence even butcher shops, to all those innovative young people who were not butchers, having these brave ideas. And here two sentences that people said before they left. One of them said, I feel proud to be a butcher again. I feel proud again to be a butcher. And it was touching for them to see that there are people like us, total outsiders, who care about this craftsmanship. And another one was, I feel like I want to go home and start right away doing something. So this is what we've done, and this is also the reason why we are here. And we are planning to continue with this project, still all in progress. There is supposed to be a second one happening in September this year. And yeah, I would like to leave the last word to Hendrik, because he was part of it. He contributed with his input and with his energy. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing example that, like Michael, like people come out of nothing, pop out of nothing, and give this into the community. And I think I didn't want to add too much. It's like this first sentence. I'm proud again to be a butcher. Was a woman. She was a master butcher for years. She was I don't know how old was she? Mid of 40s, around 50 or something. And she had tears in her eyes when I talked about this movement. I basically talked a bit about the book and about you guys, basically, about Adam, about the girls' meat camp and stuff like that. And she saw it, and for her it was like so touching that she was crying and saying like, "I'm proud to be a butcher again." And this was unexpected, and it's crazy. But for you to know, this is like these butchers that were there. It's really like a disruption in this whole scene there, because we have to deal with this old school dinosaurs. We also talked about this association of German butchers. I don't know, you talk with them, they never called me in the whole 8 years that I'm doing this in Germany. They probably, some of them don't know me, which is strange because...
It's been in all media possible.
You really see how close the view is. But it's a really great project, and maybe it's a good starting point to discuss how we reach more people inside the community, outside of our cool butchers, new butchers scene, and also the customers, the other side that you also tested as a viewpoint. So yeah, let's get into the discussion, I would say.
Yeah, just adding one thing that I forgot is like in the workshops we actually interviewed users, and we made a video out of it, and we showed it to them, and they like what they think about butchers. We just went outside and we asked people, what do you think about butchers? And we made a short video, and people were there, like, you know, they were pale. They were pale because they were so shocked to hear what people had to say to them, because they never asked them.
What did they say? Good.
It was mixed. Some people said they don't trust the butchers. Others said I prefer to go to the Turkish halal butcher. They said like they only like they do even worse than the supermarkets. So like the image was really not good. And, yeah.
It was another moment when our butchers cried when they saw the video and what the customers think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that were neutral people. We didn't influence them. We didn't choose them. Like, you know, being negative about it. We just went, and then there were people who just really can't afford good meat, and they said, yeah, of course I go to Aldi and buy my meat because I cannot afford anything else. So like there were also that kind of interviews. Yeah. So questions. Just wanted to add this point.
So very quick wrap up for questions, and then we got moving. So any questions? All good? Brown.